Welcome everyone to the third webinar for the AI Sweden Canada Soft Landing Program, or the Soft Landing Program for Canadian startups. There's been quite some interest in the program, which we're really happy about, and we're in not the final stage, I wouldn't say, but we're in a mid-stage, later stage of the program where we've increased the interest for the program. For all the people that are new, because some haven't joined us earlier, for any one of these webinars, I want to say that welcome. My name is Peter Cotrelli. I work for AI Sweden, but I'm based here in Canada and Montreal to represent AI Sweden and really try to massage and explore the Canadian AI ecosystem to find some of the best innovative solutions to present to Sweden, both in terms of research, but also obviously startups and scale-ups. And with me, I have my colleague Alexander, if you want to say hi too.
Hi, everyone. I'm Alexander Brunner. I work in the Stockholm office here in Sweden at AI Sweden, and my role is a partner relations coordinator. So I'm driving this project here on the Swedish side.
Thank you, Alex. And with us today, we have Harsha Rayu from Scania, who will talk a bit about Scania and how they work with innovation, their challenges, and startups, and how startups can leverage the Scania ecosystem. But first, we just want to do a short introduction to the soft landing program, and also tell you a bit about just repetition about AI Sweden and why we exist and what we're doing here, so that you understand how you can use us if you're either Swedish startups or a Canadian startup. And AI Sweden's mission is really to accelerate applied AI for the benefit of our society and to strengthen our industry, because we truly believe that this is a transformational technology that can help parts of our industry and parts of our society become more efficient, more increase the productivity, and by doing so also increase the quality of life for everyone living in Sweden. So AI Sweden is a natural partner in this. Obviously, we're from the beginning a governmental initiative that is driven by a science park back in Sweden, Lindholmen Science Park, and we're represented all over Sweden. We're a neutral non-profit, so we are really here to help the ecosystem. And one thing we do to help the ecosystem is to run this soft landing program. And we truly believe that presenting Canadian interesting AI enabling or AI powered startups is a way to increase the competitiveness of our private sector, especially our industry, because if we can learn how to work together, you can help strengthening their offering. So we're based all over Sweden, got access to most of the industrial players in Sweden. We have 130 partners, but our partner network stretches also beyond those 130 partners. So we are here to help you and guide you to the Swedish ecosystem. And obviously we have different nodes and different offices all over Sweden, but we're also based here in Montreal with me and some visiting researchers based out of Mila. But we're really trying to work with the entire Canadian ecosystem to source innovation and research. These are some of our partners. Previously in this series, we've heard from Sensact, for example, developer of autonomous driving systems. We've heard from Revolution, who's the startup initiatives from Hexagon. And today we're going to hear more from Scania and how they work. But we also have startup partners. So if you're looking to team up with a Swedish organization, you could also find like startup partners or partners in targeting a new market through our ecosystem. And then we have research institutions and also public sector. We do work with talent. So if you're looking for talent, we can help you access some of our strongest universities. We also develop a lot of shareable resources through AI.se, and we're really trying to drive an active partner network. So that is really how you can use us as an entity. And we're also based here in Montreal. So what we're doing here in Montreal is that we're trying to partner up with different projects. Obviously, it's helping our industrial partners with what they're looking for. So some of the strategic challenges they do have. But we also have our own projects that you could team up with. For example, we do a lot of research within natural language understanding or natural language processing with our own large-scale language model for the Swedish language, where we're looking at multilingual models. We also have a project portfolio within health. So precision-driven healthcare and preventive health are areas we're very curious about, and also hospital administration. We are now starting a new project within climate change where we're teaming up with Canadian researchers, and there will be a grants program we will access a grants program, European grants program for this area of AI for climate action, we can call it, driven also here by Mila and McGill. And then we have our Edge Learning Lab. So if you're in any area of edge learning or computation, we're super curious to work with you too there. But to the main attraction today, and that's the soft landing program, Alex. What do we do within the soft landing program?
Yes, so basically the overall ambition of this program is obviously to inform you about Sweden, and it's to open up Sweden as an opportunity, but also as a chance for you to visit Sweden, or visit Stockholm or Gothenburg or any of the nodes that we have. So you can get a bit more of a personal relationship and personal contact with people involved on the ground here at AI Sweden, but especially with our partners as well. So that is really what we are looking for, to inform about Sweden and get you to be able to establish a connection and start working here from Sweden and be the entry point into the Scandinavian and European market. And we obviously made a choice to work with Canada, as it's an important and interesting partner for Sweden, and it's to really stay competitive and strengthen our ecosystem altogether. And we want to do that with your help, with the strength of startups, international startups. So we really want to attract some of the interesting, innovative Canadian startups or scale-ups and introduce you to Swedish corporates such as Scania. And so you can really accelerate this innovation and AI together. And that is really the main goal of this program.
And with that said, what we're doing is that we're hosting a webinar series where we've held a couple of webinars introducing some of our partners to the Canadian ecosystem. They're all on our YouTube channel. So if you're curious to know, and if you missed one of the previous ones, you could always access them there. I would say that it's super interesting if you're in sustainability or in something within climate change or carbon capturing, for example. That would be to look into the webinar we had with Revolution and with Eric from Hexagon. And then if you're in anything related to automotive and self-driving, look at the thing that we had with SenseAct from earlier. But today we're going to focus on Scania. So Harsha, I want to welcome you up to the digital stage, and I think that you want to take over the screen sharing too here. If that works for you. You are muted, so we can't hear you.
Classic. All right. I hope you're able to see my screen now.
We see your screen in pre-presentation mode. That's it.
I'm going to share the whole screen.
Perfect.
Okay. Keep switching between Teams and Zoom.
Yeah, it's very different.
Thank you so much. And thank you for inviting me and giving me this opportunity to talk about what we're doing in Scania and interact with all of you. So very humble and thank you very much. So I think, Alexander, you said what we presented when we came to AI Sweden event was enough, but I added a couple of slides just to give a background on Scania so that there is a context. So let me start with introducing myself. My name is Harsha. I am working in the division of mobility solutions for Scania. I'm originally from India, been working in Germany and Sweden for the last 2 years. And I've been working in the spaces of design, innovation, and strategy. And new to Sweden and trying to enjoy the winter here. Let's see how that goes. So Scania. So I will not take the whole of 25 minutes. So it's a short presentation. So please stop me if I'm unclear or if I move too quickly. So please feel free to stop me. So we are leading provider of transport solutions. So that's what Scania is. We take pride in working with our customers and partners. And you'll hear this again and again in my presentation. You will hear sustainability again and again in the presentation. So that's something that our leadership is trying to imbibe within every aspect of business that we are involved in. So the purpose that we are working towards is to drive a shift towards sustainable transport system. That's where me and my division have a huge responsibility as well. I come from a team called division called Mobility Solutions, where we look to the future, look towards the areas that are beyond the horizon one or the core business that we have today, to create value and work towards this drive towards the sustainable shift. So like I was mentioning before, at every aspect of business that we work on, sustainability is imbibed as a core. That's what we are working towards. I'm going to talk a bit about this on how we are doing this and what aspects that we are focusing on in the couple of slides after this. Just a little bit of history and some quick snapshot, if I may. Scania has been around for a while in more than 100 countries with about more than 50,000 employees worldwide. So we also have a measure of the service points, which is more than 1,500. And we take pride in our R&D and what we do there. And one of the areas or one of the source for what we do, whether we're building businesses or ventures, etc., is R&D. And that's helped us grow to where we are today and stay ahead of curve in the industry in many aspects. Again, a quick snapshot of the solutions that we have. We make buses, coaches, power solutions, trucks, and we also provide services within that, from maintenance to financial services. So that's just a quick snapshot about Scania. What I want to talk a little more is about mobility solutions. And today, I want to focus on circularity. Any questions so far, or I just want to pause before I move on to the slides ahead?
No questions so far.
Okay, thank you. So I am So mobility solutions is a division within Scania that focus on non-core areas. Autonomous vehicles are within this. Logistics and solutions are within this, and also venture building is also part of mobility solutions. I belong to, or I spend most of the times in venture building space, which is called Scania Ventures. This is what we are trying to do. We are trying to accelerate in the space of mobility towards sustainability and hopefully to the betterment of the planet as well. But at the same time, creating sustainable businesses. That's what we are trying to do within Scania Ventures. We have currently the portfolio is growing. We are a new department within mobility solutions. It's about 6 to 7 months old, and we have a portfolio of now 6 to 8 ventures. This is just a quick snapshot on what ventures we are currently working with within our portfolio. If you see, there is a theme to all of this. All of these have an overarching theme of sustainability or circularity that you can see. For example, Wheel, which is the newest addition into our portfolio, focuses on energy storage but utilizes second life batteries. As the usage of as the electric vehicle market increases, number of batteries that are in the ecosystem increase, and not all batteries would be there in the car for the end of their life. So once they reach their end of the life within the cars or trucks or vehicles, this specific venture that we're working on utilizes to optimize those batteries for energy storage, and so on and so forth. So most of our ventures have this theme that you see here. So how do we end up with these ventures? So there are different ways that we do this. There are different sources. We have our own strategic opportunity area scouting that we do, which is very data driven. We could have areas there that we will ventures in. Like I mentioned earlier, one of the main sources for our venture ideas or concepts is the R&D. Innovation factories where these initial ideas are incubated, and then that goes through this cycle of venture building to become sustainable businesses. Then we have external sources, like that's how we are talking to AI Sweden and you guys. Then Combi and Foundry, it's an amalgamation of different corporates that come together to work towards one particular area or one cause. Traton Group, we belong to the Traton Group, which includes MAN, Scania, Rio, VW Trucks, and recently acquired Navistar. So all of these come under the holding company called Traton Group, which is part of the Volkswagen Group. And the last area of sourcing is internal partnerships. We have multiple ideas going within the company, within our group, that needs attention, which is beyond what we do in the core, but can add value into our core business. So these are the different sources where we get our ideas or concepts, and we analyze it and assess it, and then we start building the ventures, and they can enter at different phases and exit at different phases. So the idea is to exit from this Scania venture building phase, either by divesting partially or integrating into the line, or of course, if it doesn't work out, we call it off. So this is just a quick glance of how we work in Scania Ventures. Now, back to the focus of circularity. We are dedicated and working towards circularity in a very big way. And some of what I'm doing now is these are some initiatives that we are taking so that we can include the ecosystem within this purpose that we have. It all starts with awareness. In our industry, if you can see this, this linear approach of what in a crude way is called cradle to grave approach is not going to be sustainable in the long run. So this is to a certain extent optimized. There is a lot of tech intervention in it. There have been big players who are doing this very well. What we want to, or we aim to achieve, is circularity within this, where this circle that you see at the end has to be minimal. And the responsibility is not just till distribution or till the servicing or maintenance, but through the life cycle of the product that we release into the ecosystem. So that's what we are aiming to do. That's what we aspire to be. So this is just a glimpse of, what we just visualized in a very oversimplified way, I must say, of how circularity would work within this, within the ecosystem I'm talking about. So everything from the full cycle of material extraction to coming back to where we source. When we add these areas in the second half of the screen, this helps bring back or increase the life of the components and the vehicles that are there in the ecosystem to a longer extent. That's basically one primary way to reduce waste. And that's what we're trying to do. And with this would be supported by this reverse supply chain. So I'm sure you've seen and heard about circularity in different contexts and different industries, and I'm just repeating the same concept here. But what I want to really talk about is you can do this in multiple ways. You can optimize it. You can create new business models. You can create different platforms, etc., etc. But one aspect that is, especially in the second half of the screen, there is very little compared to the linear approach. There's less, I wouldn't say little, less intervention of AI or other tech that is required to optimize this. So I just consider me as I mentioned earlier also, like I consider me as a student of AI. So with my knowledge and limited knowledge, I've just put some areas that I could see could make an impact or would really help in this AI intervention, would really help in this whole circularity of what I was talking about, to really optimize this whole cycle that I'm talking. So these are some of the examples. When I say reverse supply chain, today it is, I mean, there are different scales, right? Today there is little understanding on what the forecast is of the products that go end of life. It varies based on usage, varies based on the market, and environmental conditions and different aspects that the vehicle itself is involved, external and internal factors. What if that is something that can be derived out of algorithms? I don't know. What if there could be prediction of every component, right from design to a usage? There could be a prediction of what's the best path that it could take to be optimized. At any given point of time, if I have a look at any component, depending on the usage and the condition of it, what if I could know what the residual value is or what the resale value is? That would be great to understand. So it takes that particular path so that the life is increased, or it goes into the path where you can reduce virgin materials. So different aspects, like what if we can use computer vision to look at a component and give the most optimal path for sorting or disassembly or any of those parts once the component is there with us. What if we are, what do you say, at any given point of time, if there is a remanufacturing or recycling, what's the right path that it should be taking? So these are some of the examples that I could come up with. So this is, I'll leave you with this slide to just open up for questions or thoughts and what you guys think. That's the end of my presentation. So think of this as just some ideas that I had, but not all, or not the only areas that we're looking at, but anything that could impact or create value in intervention of AI, it would be of high value.
Thank you so much, Harsha. Do we have any initial questions from the participants or the audience? Otherwise, I have a lot of questions.
I also have Gabriele from my colleague Gabriele also in the team, so both of us could take questions.
In terms of working with venture building and how you're using, for example, a Combient Foundry, are you actively sourcing startups to the problems you address, or is it more a reverse way where startups or scale-ups approach you?
I would say it's again, we are young, right? We, as Scania Ventures, is young today. We are still 6-8 months old, and we have both parts. We are giving our thoughts and working with Combient teams to see which areas the startups could look at and come back to us. And also we have startups that we also go to events and like Slush, etc., where we get to meet startups and scale-ups who approach us. It's both ways. It's not limited to one way of doing. Gabriele, please feel free to add.
Yeah, I mean, it's true, Harsha, of course. The Combient Foundry approach specifically is a corporate client approach. That means that basically you issue a problem and then startups apply for the solution. But we are, of course, very interested in collaborating with startups for just business ideas and really developing new things together. So it's both ways, as Harsha was mentioning. Yeah.
Joseph, I feel like this is up your Canvas area of interest too.
Yeah, thank you. So Canvas is an industrial AI software company, and we've had some experience in the auto sector. My question relates to the disassembly aspect of your circularity. How do you see that working? Is this like taking apart existing vehicles part by part, or is it more like, and that gives me kind of the impression it's the way scrapyards work in North America, where if you have a very old car, you need a part, may not be available, you go to a scrapyard, find it, and repurpose it. Or do you see these things being smashed up and turned into raw material? Can you give me a sense of how disassembly might work in your mind?
So let's start with sourcing for such used components. It could start with a whole truck that is disassembled, or it could be a group of components that or a set of components that come to us. When I say us, I'm talking about this recycling or used parts unit. When it's a whole truck, it could be damaged, or it could be used, or some aspects of it is working and some are not, etc. So that is disassembled, and it's taken down into components, all the way down to its frame. And with what algorithms we have today, we have an understanding of what can go back into the system. Is it a gearbox? Is it an engine? Is it a whole cabin, etc.? So which we have a link back to the workshops. Now, like I said earlier, the whole idea is to increase the life of these components and the vehicles for a longer time, so that they're used again and again without reaching a recycling unit or without reaching to a waste area. So if, let's say, even if you have a 12-year-old truck, if you need to replace a component, more often than not in the industry, you would go and buy a new component. So when the vehicle comes here, you might have components that have a life of 10 more years, but some of the component is less. So that goes back into the system. And when the workshop, the customer could ideally have this option of choosing a refurbished part or a used part instead of Now, depending on the value, depending on the usage, depending on what material it's made of, it could also go into the recycling path. Now, this is a changing scenario, right? I see it today, but going forward with the BEVs, this is going to be more and more critical with the batteries, with the coils, with the motors, etc. So this is how it's working. And we don't do the scrapping ourselves. Like you were talking about, Canada or US, you have these big, that's not done by us. That's typically outsourced, or we have a different channel for that.
Right. Now, in your thinking, do you consider the amount of energy and water that you use throughout this whole process? And are you monitoring that now? I know that in Sweden, for example, I think most of the companies are now paying carbon tax. Is this something of any focus in terms of optimizing energy use and water use in your production?
So one of our Gabriele, could we talk about Elaine here? How?
Sure.
So one of our portfolio companies, which is called Elaine, is specifically doing this. And of course, the way we do this is make Scania our first customer when we build the venture, if it makes sense. In this case, so any process, any aspect of business that you can take, we are able to predict, measure, and optimize the footprint that it leaves. And we're doing that today.
Okay, and you do that through that venture that you formed, Elaine. Okay.
And even before that, in different contexts, which I'm not aware of.
Now, does that feed into any of the financial services that you're involved in? Like, for instance, if you can predict the failure of a vehicle or a part on a vehicle, do you offer insurance? Just say, I'll call it continuity insurance.
I'm not sure about that. For sure, we provide.
Because you provide warranties, right? And with the products that you sell.
So I do not know if that is linked back to the financial services. What I'm sure about it is we provide predictive maintenance for our customers because we provide it as a service. I don't know how that links back to the warranty and finance and insurance. That I'm not aware of.
Yeah, because that's what we're seeing. We're seeing some of this now in some of the operations where we are deployed, that the data is now being used in other ways other than just the production optimization and sustainability kind of targeting. We're seeing insurance, we're seeing financial products make their, benefit from some of this data.
Right. I'm not aware, but I'm not saying it's not there, but I'm not aware. Gabriele, do you?
I mean, I don't know the specific here, if it is actually gone back. What I can say is that your company is doing an effort to actually account, for example, for carbon cost or environmental cost in in judging the different decision makings. Now, of course, in different parts of the production and the whole value chain within the company, they has reached a different level of maturity, right? So also considering the water and considering the the sustainability aspect of what we were discussing before, there are considerations. I don't know exactly, as Arsha was pointing out, I don't know to which extent those are then included in the, for example, financial metrics or decisions, but the whole company is moving in that direction. So if you want to have a specific, part of the value chain where we should, dig into and to see how mature that is, we can come back. But I personally don't really, don't know, because we don't work with
Fair
that
enough.
specific piece. So
Now, is it safe to say that I'm assuming that you're digitalizing everything that you're doing, right? It's not just
A lot of it.
manual. And the data that you're capturing, how much of this data would be, say, time-stamped?
Again, very specific. Whatever we digitalize, I think it is time stamped to the extent that we have digitalized. But again, it's a transformation in the progress. So we should look at the specific, piece of the process to see if that is ready at that level.
Okay.
Perfect. Thank you, Joseph. Any more questions from the room? Benoit? How much are this is because this was a lot about the circular, obviously recycling. How much are Scania Ventures looking at sort of new technology for your trucks and coaches, and also probably your power machines? Like, how much are you looking to innovate in terms of autonomous driving, looking at new sensors, or looking at how to use sensor data? What's the focus areas there from Scania Ventures?
So for Scania Ventures, we are focusing beyond, or actually the whole of mobility solutions. We are focusing beyond the core business. If there is a solution for the trucks today, that would be through the core business that we have today. If it's beyond the core, then that's what we try to focus on and limit ourselves to.
Because what I'm thinking is that the core will have an effect on the prolonged life of the trucks too, and then the prolonged life will have an effect of the core and how you relate to, for example, sensors. And
so, for example, let me give LiDARs, right? LiDARs are something that you need in autonomous vehicles, and also now in ICEs. It's become what was probably Horizon 2 a few years ago. Now it is for us today's
now.
So it's a moving target always. So now at this present time, we are thinking beyond that. So and those aspects that you mentioned, whether it's sensors or LiDARs or all of these, now have become core.
It's interesting to see that shift, that it's moving so quickly from tier 2 future to the now, and we made estimations maybe a couple of years ago that this is a 5-year thing, and it turns into a 1-year or 2-year thing. What's the time frame of Scania Ventures? Like, where do you see not core? Like, is it 5 years, or is it 3 years, or how do you do that time estimate now?
Maybe I can add a word there. So the time dimension is always a bit tricky to consider, right? So if you are hinting about, commercialization of these initiatives, I think we want to develop a portfolio that is spread around innovation and new services and new business opportunities for Scania, both within 1 to 2 years, but also longer term, 5 to 6. So we want to have a portfolio of different initiatives that allows us to learn and provide new services, and eventually within a couple of years, to 5 to 6 years, new revenue streams. So I think we look at both a bit closer and longer time perspective, but that doesn't mean that. I mean, this is still new, out of the core revenue streams and business models for Scania, right?
But the idea is to have a mix. Like, we would want to have strategic long bets from our investments and what ventures we build, and we would want to have a percentage of that which are quick wins. So, and that might change over time. So that's what we are looking at. And like Gabriele said, it could be, it depends. The time can be measured by, time to market or time to revenue and different ways. But if it is today and the time to revenue is today, then that's not where we are going to be, because hopefully we already started working on that 5 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah. No, but the time frame, especially for startups, is so crucial because they need a business, or they need to see traction. Obviously a corporate has another time frame, or a larger company has a different time frame than a startup, because a startup often is here and now, and long term for a startup is probably 18 months or 24 months, and everything beyond that is uncertain.
Let me be clear. The sense of urgency from our side is also very high.
Yeah.
There is a different. That's why we are also interested in collaborating with startups, because it can actually accelerate our testing of new business models, right? Instead of building the tech on our own. So there is good sense of urgency for us as well.
Yeah. Even if, theoretically, even if large corporations can develop all of this by themselves, the speed at which it would be realized, the efficiency would vary depending on who and how we're doing it. And here, one of the things that is key for us to look out and collaborate and work with different entities outside as well is the speed. So it is of importance to corporate as well. But like I said, there would be a mixture of it. Some would be long bets, some would be quick wins, and it would always have a mixture.
No, it's that's great, and I think this approach is super interesting. Also, it's almost like using smaller organizations as R&D labs, or cost-efficient R&D labs early on, and then trying out solutions together with them. I think that sounds really like an interesting approach, and we see. I also want to mention that for all the Canadian startups joining, that we see more Swedish corporates really taking a lot of growth steps, or seeing a lot of growth in terms of working with startups and working in this way. And I think this is a very interesting way and well formulated strategy in how to work towards the future together. So I want to have a last question to the room, if there's any more questions before we let Arsha and Gabrielle off the hook.
I have one final question, and that is, when you do get involved with startups, can you give us an idea of how long it takes to set up an engagement with you, and what is your contribution in terms of potential investment? And if it is an investment, is it in the form of equity or something else? Can you give us a little bit of color in how that engagement works?
I can give you two perspectives here. One is what has been happening so far, which means the collaboration with startups have gone through two different kind of setups so far. One is Combient Foundry, which means Scania advertises for a problem they want to solve. Startups apply. There is a selection, and then there is a contract for a pilot, and then if the collaboration is meaningful, it goes on in terms of supplier and customer, and that's what is well been. There have been many cycles already in that, and it's happening, and it's quite good, and the time. It is somewhat still long to actually go through the whole cycle. It might take 2 to 4 months or something like that, I think. Depends on how complicated is the setup. The other approach that has been working is through Scania Growth Capital, which is a fund, an investment fund, and that's normal CVC, so corporate venture capital setup. Scania has just announced a new fund that will work like that. The partner organization where myself and Arsha work is at the moment actively working on corporate venture building. So we actually identify opportunities and we create teams on our own. Now we are young. We have been working for about 6 months in this setup. And so we are getting, we are still crawling, but the moment we stand up, we want to have the opportunity to collaborate in developing new businesses together with partners, and startups are a fundamental piece of it.
Got it.
That means that we haven't done it yet in our context, but we plan to do it. And but we want to be a bit more mature because, I come from the startup ecosystem. And I know that a startup can be killed just from the procurement process of a big corporation. So we want to be a bit more mature to really add value to that collaboration.
That's very smart.
Great. Both Gabriel and Harsha, what's the best way to reach you if anyone here have more questions?
For me, it's email, but even better LinkedIn, actually, because email flows are very, very long.
Yeah, same for me. Email or LinkedIn would be good.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to introduce us to Scania Ventures, and what I'm seeing here is that it's really looking forward to seeing you progress, and I think it's a very interesting way to tackle and build the future and build future revenue streams too for Scania. I'm very much looking forward to following that closer. With that said, I want to also thank you all for joining us here today. This recording will be available on our YouTube channel if there's something you want to look at later on too. We're taking a break now with this series before Christmas, but we're going to come back to you early next year, and we'll do one webinar a month with a Swedish partner, so that we still introduce you to the Swedish ecosystem and show opportunities. We haven't decided the focus areas or what partners yet, but that will be finalized and announced in just the coming weeks here. But we'll do one in January, one in February, and one in March, and then also going forward, of course. If there's anything, you could always reach me on either email or on LinkedIn, same thing there. But we really want to take the opportunity to open up the Swedish ecosystem to really collaborate and find potential partners for you as a Canadian scale-up or a Swedish startups too. Alexander, is there something that I've forgotten?
No, I think you have covered it all. And we just want to wish you all happy holidays. And thank you so much for joining in today.
Yeah.
And to you, thank you.
Thank you, Joseph. Thank you, everyone. And I hope to see you soon again. Have a great holiday.